Welcome in, everybody, to the Mountaineer Postgame Show. Greg Crist, Frank Fear, and our good buddy Dave Gorby here to recap this frustrating Saturday for us. And guys, I tell you what, we talked about competing and having a chance, and we competed. We had a chance. I just think we didn't execute at times when we needed to execute. And it's funny, Frank. We talked so much about special teams and their kicker, and I think he was 2 for 5 in his last field goals attempts and nailed that 49-yarder there at the end. And we thought that would be to our advantage. And I even heard the guys on the radio talking about how that, you felt pretty good about that situation that we had a shot. But I just thought, our execution at certain times was poor and it really cost us in the end. And disappointing day. And several things keep popping in my mind, and I'll not take all the time here, but we talked about the penalties and the fact that Arizona State was, next to last in the conference in penalties that they get, meaning that they get a lot of penalties. And, we've been actually pretty good at that, as far as that's concerned. And today, we end up with over 70 yards in penalties. They had, I think, 35 yards and penalties, and 4 of our penalties were personal fouls, which you just can't do. And so there are different factors that all worked into this loss. And but we played good, we competed, we had a shot. So not all bad, I guess, but very disappointing because it's a game I think we should have won.
Yeah, I agree with you. Dave and I were talking before you had a chance to join us in the back room. And, the way I look at it is that, when you compare how we played in the last 3 games versus, let's just say, how we played in the 3 games before that, and how we looked in games even before that, for the most part, you have to say there's real progress on this team. But what keeps on showing up are things that are obviously going to have to be fixed. And we were all talking before we went on the air that you're not going to win games, particularly on the road, when you're rushing yardage under 2, and that's the way it was. I mean, and also we're having trouble obviously around the goal line. Now Texas, there's no question that Arizona State has a really good defense, but as we said, and I'll close with this. We thought the defensive line was going to be a weakness. And also, as you mentioned, that field goal kicker on long kicks would be a weakness. And that coin got flipped over.
Yeah, and we have been, for the most part, pretty effective in the red zone this year. And, today we were 2 of 4 and squandered 2 opportunities down on the goal line. Obviously would have changed the outcome. And those are things, like I said, the execution there, I don't know. I question. Of course, I'm always questioning things, but the play call there on the second one was kind of weird. But we have been executing pretty well in the red zone, and today we didn't. And like I said, we were 2 for 4 today, and those 2 obviously played huge into the game. And I felt like really after the first one. And you have to think back to the first quarter. It seemed like we had the momentum. We were moving up down the field well. We were leading. We went for it down there on the goal line, 4th and 2, didn't get it. And it seemed like the whole momentum of the game changed. And then that second quarter, Arizona State scored 22 points in the second quarter. It just seemed like the whole game shifted after that 4th and 2 play down there on the goal line. And it just changed the game. Dave, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just what we're talking about here, missed opportunities, and definitely those 2 drives that we stalled out inside the 10-yard line, and I don't mind that we went for it. Now, right. Obviously, we can always second guess what should have been called and all that, and but that's just the case of the. Just missed opportunities on that. I think we were all in agreement to win this game. We had to muck it up a little bit. Would that be the term? I don't know. I don't think it would have been a shootout for us to.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
But yeah, just those two missed opportunities on scoring right there. I mean, for us to go win a road game, we needed to hit on at least one of those two. And that's,
yeah. Of course, I mean, it's easy to look back and say, "Oh, we should have kicked field goals, we won," but that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I don't think. I think when we were up 3-0, we hit, like you said, we had the momentum, and I think that's what Rich was feeling. We had the momentum, and he's like, let's step on their throat a little bit. Let's get out. We got to beat this team. We got 4 touchdowns, and obviously for us to happen that comeback, we scored touchdowns. And then the second one, we were down 12, and if we kick a field goal, we're still down 2 possessions.
Right.
So that's what that.
Yeah. I didn't have any problem with us going forward at all, really. And the second one, the play call, I was a little bit confused by. I thought it was a little strange to try to get it up the middle there, but they know more about it than I do, and they see film and they know where weak spots are and strengths are, and had an idea.
It just hurts because we're trying to establish a run, and we're one dimension. Like it's not like, obviously, Scotty, we have a passing game, as we can see like that, but obviously Arizona State was more concerned. Like, if we're going to get beat, they're going to pass the ball against us. We're not going to get beat against this run today.
Right.
And, that was obviously what they were wanting us to do. So.
Yep. And then you factor in the penalties, and I hate like I said, we had 70 yards in penalties, which is kind of unusual for us. We played pretty clean most of the year, and 4 of those were personal fouls. And again, you hate to harp about officiating, but it was 3rd down and 7, and when they called the roughing the passer penalty on us on that last drive. I thought that was a ridiculous call. I mean,
it's kind of tough because he was, I don't want to say out of control, but he's like, doing all his work to get around that guy, and he kind of loses his footing a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. Now, the one Fred Perry got, that personal foul, that was right after his face mask call. And and I'm not dog, because Fred Perry is a dog. He's all over the field, but sometimes he just gets a little wound up, and that's what caused that next penalty. It was in the very next play. He had that personal foul. When he suplexed the kid.
And I thought all the calls were okay except that last one. I just felt like, first of all, he was getting held badly, had him up around the neck, holding him, and he fought through. When he fought through, his momentum carried him right on into the quarterback, and just because the other guy was on the ground, it looked like if they, hit him high and low at the same time, which that just happened. The other guy was on the ground. So I really questioned that. I thought that was a poor call, especially at that point in the game. I mean, you're talking about, I see him get hit a lot worse during the game if they didn't call on the touchdown pass he threw. The one touchdown pass, he got smoked pretty good up around the head. But, you hate to complain about that, but that was kind of out of character for us, to get those, those personal foul penalties like that. And it really hurt, especially the last one. But, again, those are the type of things you got to overcome. And had you executed and done the things you should have done earlier in the game, you wouldn't have been in those positions, which we didn't. And like I said, you're down on the 2-yard line twice and you don't get anything out of it, that will beat you. I mean, that's what costs you games. And I just felt like that's what cost us, is we just couldn't get it in when we were in the red zone. And second quarter just seemed like, too, when they got going, it just seemed like our defense kind of unraveled a little bit there for a while, and we kind of lost our way there just a little bit, and they hit some big plays on us.
Jeff, if you think between the 3 quarter, Jeff Sims ended up being like 68% passing, like we talked about earlier. He's a 50% passer this year, and in the other years he's literally like a 53, 54% passer, like his whole career through Nebraska, through Georgia Tech. And like I said, he ends up 67. Really, it was just that second quarter. It wasn't the
Yeah, right.
first, third, or fourth quarter. And I thought it was big. He had a couple balls that he missed. He was kind of behind, and but we never really got that one ball that we could almost pick. He did put it on the ground a couple times, and we got on one, but that was the big thing about them. Not to have too many turnovers. They just have one turnover. I thought big.
Yeah, but unlike Colorado, we didn't put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah,
until the fourth.
That was the one thing I was kind of disappointed about. You look on there and you see Arizona State gives up how many sacks this year. Now maybe that's a little bit more with Sam Leavitt than Jeff Sims, but it wasn't like Jeff Sims was avoiding a lot. It didn't seem like we really got back in there a lot.
Yeah. Coop has a good point here, and I'll tell you why. I thought the rule of thumb was when you're on the road and it's fourth down and you're close, you take the points. Points were taken, which meant that 6 points were taken off the board. And he says Rich lost us the game not kicking field goals in fourth and medium. That's a question that's going to come up, I'm sure, in the after press conference. It probably will come up during the week in the press conference. But what do you guys think about that? Greg first?
Well, I would agree. The first one, I probably would have kicked in the first quarter. The second one, just like Dave pointed out earlier, we were down 12. A field goal there leaves us down 9, still 2 scores. So, why not go for it there? I understand the second one. The first one, it's questionable. I think, he felt like we had some momentum and could really put some pressure on him by going for it. I would have probably kicked the first one. The second one, I wouldn't have. I would have went for it on the second one for sure. I don't know that lost us the game. There's a lot of things you can look at and say, have we not done this, or have we done this? That would have been the difference in the game. So it's kind of hard to say that, but going back to Sims, you look at his stats and you look at the stats of the game. If you just look at it on paper, we probably kill him. If you look at the stats on paper, Sims had, I think, 80 yards rushing and 200 yards passing. We out yardaged them almost double, and we had 350 yards passing. We didn't have much rushing, but you look at those stats, and it wasn't really. It wasn't overwhelming. You know what I mean? It's not like you look at it and say, "Man, that guy killed us." He really didn't. Like I said, he had 80-some yards rushing. He didn't throw the ball that well, 250 yards passing.
We just didn't turn him over. That's
right.
He got into just a little bit of flow during that second quarter. And like you look at it, he had literally 200 yards passing. It wasn't like they were trying to bomb it downfield or anything.
Yeah.
He just kind of threw it on. They found the pockets in the zone. And then that one real bad, when we came on the all-out blitz and we had the running back, we had Siders on their running back. That was just a bad matchup right there. Scored that was their last touchdown they scored.
Right.
And but yeah, it wasn't like but he just didn't have any bad things happen to him.
Right.
Like he put the ball on the ground twice. We got one of them, but it's just how it was. He gave us 2 opportunities and we only got one of them. That's what happened.
Yeah, and you take away, like I said, you take away that second quarter. And they scored 22 points in that second quarter. Yeah. We pretty much handled them other than that. And, it just seemed like, when we get behind the 8 ball a little bit, we don't always hit those explosive 90-yard touchdown passes. Those are rare. And, when you don't have that running game and you can't, you see it on the previous plays, we just couldn't get a playoff to gain any yards. And it makes it tough when they know you're throwing it. But our defense played pretty solid, I think, other than that second quarter. And so I don't know that all that beat us. I just think there was a combination of things: the penalties, the failures in the red zone, killed us, just those type of things. But overall, I mean, I thought we played pretty well, really overall. Our run game just wasn't there. I mean, they shut down the run. And like you said, you could see it was a concerted effort to make sure that we didn't run the ball, make us one-dimensional, and they did that. And, I thought Scotty played pretty well, threw the ball pretty well. Again, and you can always question play calls and that sort of thing. I just thought especially later on, our last drive in particular, we threw a couple underneath routes for 3 or 4 yards when it was, 3rd and 7 or whatever it was. And you wonder about those. And you saw Rich getting on him a couple of times. I guess those are reads that he has to make.
Well, you seen that one where he took the sack, not the first sack. I think it was the second sack. And he tells whoever he was like flat. And he was saying the route's out there in the flat, and he held onto the ball. And I think Rich was getting onto him. I think he said, throw that beeping thing. And it kind of put us like in a 3rd and long situation.
Yeah. Making freshman mistakes. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's when Scotty was frustrated. That's when he took his helmet off.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? That not in front of his face, but I think that's what happened. A receiver didn't run the right read, and he held on the ball, and then he has to take it from Rich. And but Rich was kind of frustrated on that last play. I mean, I know that was a one-on-one. He kind of misfired a little bit there to Weimer because that was technically an interception. I didn't realize that was an interception until I saw the replay. And it just is what it is.
Yeah. Well, the disappointing thing, I think, is, we were looking forward to the Texas Tech game coming in, being a raucous place. I don't know now. I mean, I'm sure it'll be a nice crowd for the game. It'll be and I think we'll compete. It'll be a good game.
But by the way, their top linebacker scored a touchdown today. So Rich started a two-way player technically I guess Dion did with Travis Hunter, but their linebacker scored a touchdown today from quarterback spot. Jacob Rodriguez.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, I don't know. Let me put up when we look at about our score picks, how we did here. And I'm very, very proud to say that I won.
There you go.
I won. This is an incredible circumstance. Thank you very much. You couldn't see Greg's hands, but he was clapping on that.
Oh yeah.
But,
what makes you
actually?
Yeah.
I think Greg may be frozen in time there. He looks like he's shocked. Actually, you and I tied.
I was about to say, I think 5 points. I just missed it by their score.
No, Greg dropped out. We both got 5. What we do is we take whatever West Virginia's prediction was against West Virginia's actual points, blah, blah, blah. And you and I, actually, they were all pretty close. You and I were at 5. Where have I got this? You and I were at 5. Greg was at 6. Mickey was at 8. So being in the 20s, which we all predicted, was pretty close. But they did not cover in that game. And you and I were talking about this. Those, I'll tell you what, guys, and the viewers out there, get used to watching TNT, get used to watching True TV for non-high-profile Big 12 games because they got the contract for both football and basketball. And so I'll tell you what, they got to upgrade that studio crew. That was, hate to say it because we're in the same business, even though we're not pros, and they are. But that was awful. They were just so for Arizona State. It was disgusting. In fact, the host was wearing a suit that was Arizona State colors. How? I mean, where's the producer saying you can't do that? Who does that? I mean, it was terrible. Anyway, yeah. But going back to Greg will come back in. Going back to what Greg was saying before he left, people will come to the Texas Tech game. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, this team has turned the corner, and a lot of people didn't think it would happen in year one. There are obvious issues, but when you think about the fact that now offensively and defensively, they are playing like a Rich Rod team, and you've got a fiery quarterback, and you've had tremendous injuries. I mean, that running back room has been decimated, and we lost another wide receiver for the season early, and so thank God Weimer came forward. He's done well, even though he dropped that ball today. That it would have been great if he had caught it. But we need wide receivers. We need to get White back. Hopefully he'll come back. So that the running game needs to be strengthened. Obviously the offensive line needs to be strengthened. There are a lot of seniors that were playing out there, and they'll be leaving. But he's got the structure in place, Dave.
Yeah, you're talking about what we need to get better at, and obviously there's a lot of spots. O-line is going to be the first spot that I say. Obviously, I think they got some pieces on there that can be retained and played, but they got to shore up a couple more spots. And you think about depth, and obviously they're bringing in a high school class this year, and hopefully there's one recruit that we're all hoping that does commit, and that would be probably the first piece of going into the future on that offensive line. Running back, don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed what Hubbard and Bowers has done, but what we got to and I know where they were at on the depth chart to start out with, and Jaheim White went down, and obviously Clay Ash is there too, but I also think, us missing out on the SMU running back that didn't transfer because that one class credit didn't transfer. Knightley, was that his name? Or Knightley? Yeah. That you go back to that. Just having bad luck on that. But they need to get another guy that's kind of equivalent to Jaheim or better, and then receiver, obviously they got to get better production out of that. Obviously Cam Vaughn. Everybody's all worried about, Cam Vaughn leaving, and I'm just like, do you ever watch him play the game? Like how he was. I think he enjoys playing the game. I don't think he has any problem with Rich Rod's offense. He does little things that sometimes maybe the TV don't pick up. This is like when I go to the game, and you can tell he's a very smart kid. He knows what he can get away with and not away with,
Yeah.
Defensively, that like you was kind of mentioning, they got a bunch of seniors. The one thing is we got this JUCO rule now, and is the COVID year still in? I don't know which ones can still.
Yeah.
I don't know which ones. I have no. You know what I'm getting at. Can trying to appeal and get another year. I'm sure there's a few in that mix, so hopefully we don't have to go crazy like we did, but we still got to get some defensive guys to shore up that in all three levels on that defense. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, they got they got visitors coming in next weekend on their open week. I'm sure coaches are got to go out on the road too, and then they got visitors coming for Texas Tech.
That's right.
The first high school class signings that Wednesday after the Texas Tech game. So,
yep. We had 421 yards total offense today. That's almost 100 yards more than Arizona State. And again, the issue here is rushing. 1.7 average on 39 rushing attempts. And I'm also going to take a look at this Brown guy. By the way, this is a good trivia question. when Dillingham is in practice and he yells out, "I want Brown to run the ball next." There's confusion because they have 3 running backs who are in the top tier. They're all of them. Their surname is Brown, but it's Raleek Brown who's number 2 in terms of all-purpose yards. He had 53 yards rushing today, and I don't see him on the passing side. Wow.
Yeah, 29 yards. He caught that 1 touchdown pass. Remember that?
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah, let me see. Where is it here? Yeah, 29 yards. So
yeah,
that's
3 I got right. 3 receptions, 29 yards,
82 yards total.
Yeah,
he's number 2.
And that was probably a 25-yard touchdown pass. And that was a bad matchup. Allie sent a max blitz, and it put our bandit on him. And it was just they won the chess match right there. That's all that was. And but he didn't really beat up on us. Like I said, Sims just had a good second quarter there, and gave up 22 points.
And the other thing is that second touchdown. We talked about this Mountaineer, the tight end, was a receiver we had to watch. That guy was not only holding on the edge, he grabbed the face mask. The refs missed that. If they had caught that one, and also that you were talking about it earlier, that roughing the passer, where there was a stumble. Was it Siders who stumbled into the quarterback, and they called that? You take those 2, because that was a 3rd down and 10. You take those 2 plays; those are game-changing plays right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Good to have you back, Greg.
Yeah, had a little technology problem. I don't know what was going on, but yeah, that's what I said. Especially the last personal foul, the roughing the passer. Those things were just. That happens in games, and I just felt like that was such a crucial time because, like you said, it's a 3rd down play. They obviously had to go for it on 4th. You stop them there on 4th, game's over. And the holding there was obvious on their touchdown as well. And you could probably go through and point out 5 or 6 different occasions when things like that happen. Even on the roughing the passer that they called on us on the 3rd down, it was clearly holding. They had Siders around the neck and was holding him, and so you're going to have those type of things. But statistically, you look at it, we won the statistical battle. If you look at first downs, we had more first downs, we had more yardage, more passing yards, a lot more passing yards, and just little things, like I said, converting on the 2 4th downs was huge, and but if it was easy, everybody would get it every time. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about? There are 2 pivotal games left to be played in the Big 12 today. The question now becomes who's going to be the opponent for Texas Tech in the championship. Arizona State's still in there. So is Arizona, because were you surprised, by the way, before we get to the graphic, were you surprised that Arizona beat Cincinnati at Cincinnati?
Well, obviously they had a bad year last year with a brand new coach. I think they went 4-8, but I think the one key thing was having that quarterback. And obviously we talk about who's going to be the quarterback. We got to have a quarterback that'll be the best player, like that. And having I can't think of his name. I can't think of his name. He had that big season when he was a freshman when Jed Fitt was the coach before he left to Washington. But he's turned it around good, and I think a lot that you have that you was solid at that quarterback spot, and it's almost like even though they lost that big receiver they had last year, he plays for the Panthers this year. Remember we put a linebacker on him last year, and he scored. I was like, why do we do that? But
Sorsby,
it's almost like he spreads it around more. He doesn't have that guy that just you just feed. So, but yeah, that was a good win. I think Cincinnati's running back was out prior, so that obviously had to help
Yep.
a little bit.
Yep. Yep. In fact, they ran into the same problem. Well, they had Tawee Walker. I don't know him.
Hmm.
Tawee Walker. He 12 carries, 119 yards.
They still did all right.
10 yards. They did okay there. Sorsby is the guy, Brendan Sorsby. He was 15 for 28, but Fatita won it at the end.
Fatita,
so,
that's what couldn't think of it. But
yeah.
just look at these games down here. Obviously, Utah is just they're solid. I mean, like they don't beat themselves up. They know how to run the ball. Obviously, talking about quarterbacks, Dan Pierre. I mean, he's as good as they get. He's a +1 runner. And they look at Baylor. Have you heard much about Baylor's coach maybe being on the hot seat? Then obviously them losing their AD too probably doesn't help. So.
Well, usually that can be a prelude to a coach being let go, but what's going on with that Baylor AD is extraordinary.
Not as quick as like how these coaches have been getting fired this year, but definitely maybe next year he will be on top of that hot seat if he don't get the ball rolling. And then BYU and that should be a real good game. I see the 3.5 is the line. I like Hoover for TCU. I just think he's a solid quarterback. He don't do anything wrong. Obviously, playing at BYU defense is going to be a little bit different story. But just overall, you think about even Baylor's quarterback's all right. I can't think of his name off the top of my head right now, but
I can look it up. But this is going back and turn to Greg here. Baylor has to win. They can't go 5-5. They got to beat Utah. It's going to be but it's at home. And then same thing for TCU. The anticipation there was high. They 6-4 isn't going to cut it, and they're playing at BYU. That's going to be tough. Greg, your thoughts on those two games?
Yep, I think like Dave said, Utah is just a solid team. They're just a good, solid team, and I think with Baylor's struggles, I think Utah will take care of business there. Just because I think Utah is just good, and so I think they'll handle Baylor okay. BYU TCU, I think that'll be a really good game. I think playing at BYU is going to be tough for TCU because when BYU at times they look dominant. I mean, they just look so good at times, and playing at home obviously is going to help them. They have great atmosphere there at their home games. Should be an advantage for them. TCU is a good, solid team. That'll be a fun game to watch, I think. But I think BYU might pull that one out as well. So I think the favorite's going to win in both of them. Those are pivotal games, and when you look at these games and you look at the Big 12, it's what I've said all along, and that is, the Big 12 gets underestimated, and I think it's because you have so many teams that are so close to each other. You have good teams that are playing each other with TCU, BYU, Utah out there playing. You got good teams. That first 7, 8, 9 teams in the Big 12 are pretty daggone solid. And, Cincinnati is one of those teams. They're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde. One week you watch them, they look like world beaters. The next week you watch them, they're so-so. But for the most part, that top 7 or 8 teams in the Big 12 are solid. And, you look at these other conferences and there's good teams, obviously. And but once you get down past number 5 or 6 in those leagues, those teams aren't very good. And I think the Big 12 gets shortchanged a little bit just because they're so competitive and the games are so, the teams are so close to each other. I mean, you watch today, you wouldn't expect a West Virginia team to be able to go ahead and have any chance against an Arizona State team on the road and probably should have won the game. So in the Big 12, you just don't know week to week what's going to happen. And these other conferences, I think you kind of know, your teams at the top are they're the cream of the crop, and they're not going to they're not going to lose to the 8th, 9th, 10th team in the conference. Happens sometimes, but not nearly as much as it does in the Big 12.
Absolutely. What do you guys think about this again? Football loss is directly on Rich Rod. Some of the play calling was questionable. I go, whoa. Particularly the first down quarterback keepers. I was toward the end. I was surprised. It didn't surprise me, and it's not going to. If it's not going to surprise me, it's not going to surprise. It's not going to surprise the defense.
Well, Dave's coached, so he's coached football, knows what it's like. I think sometimes you get in a game like that, and Rich been doing it a long time. I don't know if it affects him this way or not, but when a team takes away something that you're trying to establish, you're trying to establish that run game, and they take that away, it kind of tightens up your playbook a little bit, and it makes it tough to run things. And I think he was just looking for something that would work. And I thought, I questioned a few of the play calls myself, not many of them, but a few of them. And I think that happens sometimes when you get, you get in a situation where a team is taking something away from you that you wanted to establish. And I know you should have a backup plan, but then you go to your backup plan that don't work either. Then you start scrambling, trying to figure out what to call, when to call it. And I think that kind of happened today some. I think with them shutting down our run game like it did, he was just kind of looking for something, that would work. And I think anytime you lose a game, you can go through and say, this was a horrible play call. Or if it don't work, if the 4th down plays work in the red zone, great play calls. Nobody ever mentions it. But since it didn't work, everybody's questioning the play call. And so, that happens. And I just kind of feel like that's kind of what happened today is that, they took away that run and right off the bat, and it got us scrambling just a little bit. Dave, I don't know what your thoughts are, but that's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, run first is always going to be this offense. And obviously Arizona State took that away today. We're just thinking of the situations that I think it was the second time we were down there. And obviously we got Curtis Jones in there. And the big reason why, because the other two backs are 170 pounds. And his play, he's only been doing this a couple of weeks. So his play package is small with Curtis Jones being there. And, they just had and Arizona State puts more guys in the box. And, I would too, because they know. And Rich tried to sneak that little slippage of the tight end in there. And he kind of tripped over some feet. But you think about it, there were so many guys in that box. And I think even I can't think of the referee that's right there in that box. Which one's that called? They all got specific names.
Yeah.
Is that the umpire?
The umpire, I believe, yeah.
I think that. But anyways, it was just so there was just so much going on right there. It was almost maybe you should have slipped that guy out to the corner or something like that. But we've seen that. That was almost the same play that Barnes scored against Pitt when we kind of just slipped him past the line like we did. But there was just so much traffic in there, so it's easy to second guess stuff.
Yeah, and I do agree with this with WVU. I can't read his fan there, 13, I think it is. I can't see it real well because my eyesight sucks so bad. But still puzzled by the 2-point conversion play. That one confused me a little bit, especially what got me on that one was the fact that we had to use a timeout first of all.
Well, that was a personnel thing. That's why the timeout happened. And
then the play that we come up with is, a straight dive up the middle where we haven't been able to move the ball at all up the middle all day long. I just feel like you give your, quarterback like Fox who can run a little pass run option there, get him out in the flat, let him either throw it or run it in, gives you a better chance. So I was a little puzzled by that play call, especially after a timeout. But again, I feel guilty here because
The only reason we are questioning these calls is that we were in a position to win the game. And
Right.
and that was unthinkable a few weeks ago when
Right.
our offense was a quarterback keeper.
Yeah.
And so that just so these loom large. And so but I think the larger, if you look at it from sort of 30,000 feet, the team is starting to come into play. You're seeing much more effectiveness in players who were in rooms that were just totally ineffective. For example, he missed a couple of, he missed a few long passes today, but let's face it, a couple weeks ago, those long passes would have been completed for long touchdowns. And so the opposition had their way with our defensive backs, and that room has improved. Our defensive line has improved. So I feel a little guilty about this because we were in a position to win it.
Yeah. You feel bad, questioning those things. And like I said, if they work, there's no question, or if you win, there's no question. But that's what we do is we we question those things, and that's just the way the game is and the way fans are. And I get it, I understand it, and I'm the same way. You get frustrated, you question those things, and that was the only one really. The try for it on the second, fourth and goal, I questioned. And the play call on the 2-point conversion, questioned a little bit. But at the same time, the play call before that was a touchdown. We didn't question that one. What I mean? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's hard to hindsight's 2020. You can go back and look at a lot of the things, like I said, that are questionable, and why we do this or why this happened. That could have changed the outcome of the game. So, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and WVU Fan 13 has it again. That second sentence, I think, is right. Play calling can be questioned, and it should be, whether you're 0-10 or 10-0.
Yeah,
you can question those,
right.
and yet I realize that, and I don't mean this at all critically. Just sort of, it's a phrase. He's not playing with the full deck yet. When the quarterback fades back, he doesn't have 26 options out there. Obviously, that's hyperbolic. But the point is, and yet guys have stepped up. I mean, that Bowers, that was a hell of a run and catch. My God, 3rd and 30.
He was dead. Whoa. He was absolutely dead the last 15 yards. I mean, dead. And I'll tell you another one. I like Jared Bowie, how we pronounce that? That's another kid, that slot receiver we have. I like him. And he had a key block on that. Like I said, he doesn't have a full deck of cards. What's it going to be like when he gets more players?
WV Fan 13 is right here. He says, "Is anybody playing with a full deck? Ask coaches, and they'll say you never." But let's put it this way:
neither are we, right?
If you're Ohio State,
when he's playing with all first stringers instead of fifth string, fourth string, fifth. That's what we're waiting for. And unfortunately, that's not what we're doing. But the team's fighting, and it's hard to hate how they're playing. Just because you think what we thought a month ago, we were saying this is the worst season since 1920 something or whatever it was. I can't remember. So.
Yeah, and I think WV Fan 13 is right. You can question the calls, no doubt, and we all do. I think, I've seen many times during the game, what kind of play call was that? And there were a couple today that I questioned, and if I were a reporter and in the news conference, I would ask about those. Why did we? What was your thinking behind the 2-point conversion running up the middle? I think that's a fair question, and I'd like to hear his answer on it. Those things are always questionable. But like I said, I think there's so many other things too that you can attribute to the loss. There's a lot of, we could go through a breakdown of film and and pick out probably 15 different things. Had we done something differently, it would have changed the outcome. But you can't do that. And you just go through and you try to. The good thing is a lot of the things that we did wrong are correctable. It's not a a total talent breakdown or anything like that. It's the penalties and that sort of thing. And those are all things we've been pretty good at this year. The penalties, the red zone, we've done well with those things, and we just didn't today. So it really comes down to execution,
Yeah, well, you think about also, I know you guys have mentioned about obviously that guy making that long field goal, but how close was the same guy to blocking that? Like blocking 2 in a row on the exact same thing. He was, it was like, it seemed like it was about like that. Like, just think if he would have done that. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
But we can't, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I think overall we have to be, pretty pleased with the way we've come along. I think we've improved dramatically. They play hard. They never give up and quit. You saw that today. So I think overall you have to be kind of nobody wants to lose, and it kills us all when we lose a game, especially a game like this that we should have won. It's tough to take. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, if you look at the whole picture and where we were to where we are now, I think is a good positive signs. And I think, I've said from the beginning, you give Coach Rodriguez time, he's going to get the players that fit his system. They're going to get better and better. He's finding people now, that he can count on in the trenches right now. They're finding people that can play right now. And what pleases me about it is 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, we were thinking, gosh, we could get 1 or 2 guys out of this bunch that can contribute next year to be a good thing. Now I think you're seeing numerous players that can contribute next year. And so I think it's positive. Even though we lost, overall, I still think it's a positive time.
Well stated. And yet, we can also say, sometimes both things are true. If things had gone a little bit left or right, we would have won this one.
That's
we would
right.
have come out of Tempe with a win. And yet, we've said this before. He came in late. He did not have a full sweep of the portal. He certainly went back in after spring practice. But the fact of the matter is, other coaches were well organized and were well into the portal, and he wasn't even signed yet. And he didn't have a full freshman class. He'll have that this next year. And as you said it, he's a great coach. You can see it. And Scotty, if we can keep him, he's the quarterback of the future. And we need running backs, need an offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to come along, no question about it. You got to feel good if you're Mountaineer.
Yeah. And like I said, the bad thing about having all these injuries is you lose your first teamers and they can't play, and it's a struggle for a while. But I think we found some players that can play because of that, and forced into duty. And as they say, and we found some people that that are able to play and are going to be a good foundation for building it up in the future. So I think it's all positive right now. What he faced coming into this season, and you not only all the new players, but then you throw on top of that all these injuries all at once. It's taken him a while to get everybody in place and to start gelling a little bit, and I think we've gotten there. And again, it gives you a good foundation for the future. So hopefully, we can just keep building on it.
Yeah. Let me put this up. Was here before, again, from WVU Fan 13, just the first sentence. Obviously, we talked in the pregame show about that great game last night against Duke. Too bad we couldn't have completed the trifecta, the third straight game, consecutive days with Pitt getting Pitt on Thursday. But the women's soccer team advanced. They're going to play Georgetown. Georgetown's tough, about the same record. They're in the Big East. And they're going to play at Georgetown on November 20th. And I believe the men's selection show, soccer, is on Monday night. And even though we historic loss to Marshall at home on penalty kicks this past week and didn't get into the Big South final. They're going to get a good seed in the men's tournament. We'll know more on Monday about that. So, and when you think about the men's basketball and women's basketball, we talked about the terrific schedule coming up for women's basketball in December, and the way that Hodge has those guys playing, things are looking up, and that's exciting. That's really exciting for Mountaineer fans everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, I think with the men's and women's basketball team both, very exciting. I think both teams are going to be good and have good seasons. Of course, the soccer, we've been good in soccer, and that's continuing on too. So hopefully the men and women both can progress and keep winning. So yeah, good times right now, I think. And the football team struggled, but they've shown lots of improvement and are getting better. And I feel a lot more positive about everything going on up there now than I did 2 months ago. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, the other thing to consider, and I don't want to say this lightly, but it's happened, and that is we can't count out, and I know you guys wouldn't, even though they're a top 10 team, a CFP team, Texas Tech, the way that West Virginia is playing, my God, the fans will be crazy for that game. That's a game that you can expect the Mountaineers to show up. And there have been, if there are not enough teams that qualify, there have been 5 and 7 teams that have gone, and they do it in terms of your academic standing. So the graduation rates, what the NCAA does is give the bowls a list of 5 and 7 teams that are at the top of what they call, I think, the APR, academic performance rating. So I don't know, but usually West Virginia does pretty well in that. So let's not say that a bowl is impossible. Odds are obviously very tall, but you're right. Let's just keep. There's always hope, right?
Oh yeah, always hope. And like I said, you got to feel positive about everything going on right now. Like I said, the basketball teams both look great. I wouldn't say great, but they look good. Soccer, obviously, doing what it does. And then the football program coming along. I think, when prior to the season, people were predicting 4 wins, 5 wins. Most I saw was 7. And I kept thinking, if we finish with 7 wins, that's going to be a tremendous season, I just think with everything that this staff has faced, all the adversity and everything they've come through, to have this team playing like it is right now is pretty impressive. And like I said, I'm not looking for moral victories. I just think it's reality, and that is we're getting better and we're competing.
Yeah, good question here. Now that we are officially in next season mode, how many do you think will play against Texas Tech in 2 weeks? Will any of our players? I think what he's asking, or she's asking you, will that affect any ability? Will some players seek to sit out?
Yeah.
What do you think, Dave?
I think we got I don't know who is he worried about, like the kids that are like under 4 games, the red shirt and all that. I wouldn't even know that right now.
But also kids that don't want to take a chance of being injured if they're thinking about going into the portal.
Nah, I think they'll. I think the majority of them will play. I don't have any concern. It's kind of weird how they did this schedule where we're open on basically next to last week of the regular season. I don't like that.
No, not at all. I think we've talked about this. The Big 12 office has some work to do on that schedule. This doesn't make any sense. We've talked about, having to play 2 teams this year when they had at home, when they've had a bye week, put those teams on the road. And you're right, a bye.
Right. Like we waited all the way to the very midpoint of the season to have our first bye. Now, I'm not saying give us a bye 3 weeks in. I wouldn't mind playing, say, 5 games and then play another 4 games. Now, obviously, every team can't be like that. I understand, but we didn't really get a good luck on the draw on having our open weeks this year. So
Yeah, I think they're going to have to. They need to look at because the conference is shaped the way it is. They need to look at these travel time, travel distances and times for teams like West Virginia and Cincinnati. We're talking cross country trips, and it just seems unfair for a team to be 2,000 miles away, be sitting there waiting on you to make all that travel. It's just tough. So I think they need not necessarily look at when the buys are, which I'm like Dave, I hate having a buy at the end of the season like this. Now, if you were 9-1, 10-1, it might be different. But I think more than looking at the buy times is to look at what happens the week after the bye, like Frank said. And I think, especially for teams like West Virginia and Cincinnati and all that. And I'm not saying you give us an unfair advantage, but you take away an unfair advantage from us, an unfair, deficit, if you will. Not sure exactly what I'm trying to say here, but you're not trying to do it to give us an advantage. You're trying to do it to make it fair. You know what I'm saying?
About the only good thing about it, obviously we got 2 home games this month and open date, so that basically gave us 3 weekends that we can have official visits. That's about the only good thing that instead of being the other way around, you still have an open week and having 2 road games and 1 home game, then you only have 2 weekends that you can have official visits. I don't know. It's all, I get it. There's 16 teams in the or 8. I can't even think.
16.
Yeah. Obviously, they can't all be open the same exact week, but they can figure out something, I think. So
yeah. Well, look at what the SEC has done. They always play lower division teams. Football championship teams like New Mexico State later in the season.
Would you rather play an earlier conference game in the year and then have an easier opponent like that later in the year?
Well, the SEC has decided that's what they've done that for years, and you see the Big Ten. Sometimes Big Ten teams open up against another Big Ten team, so it's one way to get around that. But I think some more thought needs to go into it. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I am convinced that the way they're doing it now isn't going to work. Isn't going to work. Now, I know it's competitive. The Big 12 is not in a catbird seat the way the SEC, the Big 12 is. We were talking earlier about the fact that all of a sudden Big 12 games are going to be on TNT and True TV. Basketball, here we are with an 11 o'clock start today out in Tempe, a 1 o'clock kick. That's the way it used to be, 30 years ago. Everybody would kick off at 1 o'clock. But who kicks off at 1 o'clock now? Because let's face it, TNT and True TV are not prime media partners, and so ESPN and Fox get the pick of the litter. And so, but we're going to expect more of this.
Why do you think TNT doesn't make this game at like 3:30 or 4?
Because they would have to compete with ESPN and Fox, and in fact, they may be prohibited from doing it.
Yeah, but Fox's big game is big noon kickoff. So I don't know.
Yep. So you switch over at 1, I guess, because everything's calibrated to Eastern time. I don't know. Good question. But I think the answer has to include the media has too much control over sports, period.
Or even like 5 o'clock. You know what I mean? Like, be different a little bit. I don't know. Because no game started at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I know this, Frank, are going to drive me back to listening on the radio again. I'm going to go back to listening to Jack Fleming again on the radio because I can't keep up with all this technology, and I definitely can't go to the watering hole every night there's a basketball game. Or number one, I'd be broke, and number two, I'd be in rehab because I'm not going to get into that, but I can't get the TNT and True and all that unless I buy something else. So I'll sit down and figure all that out. Oh, but yeah, what a mess. And it's going to get worse. I mean, that's just what it's coming to. You're going to have to pick and choose your packages and who you want to watch and that sort of thing. It's not going to be out there for us to watch all the time like we're accustomed to. And it's starting now, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse, I'm sure, gradually.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know some people who do research on future of sports media, and they do it for the purpose of clients who are interested in knowing, well, where do you think the future is going to go, so we can be there. And there's some research out there that basically says we already know it's super expensive to attend a game, and a lot of people are priced out from seeing a game in person. And secondly, now with all these subscription services now coming in that you've got to pay for, there is a prediction that at some point in the future, we all may be at a watering hole, because that's really going to be the most reasonable way to consume these games without basically, taking a second mortgage on your house, because it's going to be so expensive that you can't go to the games because you can drop $1,000 for 2 tickets with food, parking, and so on, and then how many subscriptions are you going to get? And so you end up buying a meal and watching a game at the local watering hole. It's it's all about money, guys. You know that.
Oh yeah, and Frank, for people in our age bracket, I'm reading this comment here while I'm talking, but people in our age bracket struggle with this technology and don't understand how the streaming services work and all that. And a lot of them are just going to say hell with it. I ain't fooling with that stuff. If it's not on regular TV, I'm not going to watch it. So I think at some point there's got to be a saturation point. There's got to be a point where they have to say, you know what, this is costing us money. And when that happens, it may change a little bit, but it may not happen. I don't know. But I think, fans, and you go from Dave's age up to our age, that's, to me, is your core fan group. You're not young people. Young people, my son picks up his phone. He watches the games on his phone. I don't do that. I can't stand to watch a game on a phone. But that's what they do. And they watch highlights. They don't sit and watch games on TV to the point to where they're going to pay extra money to do that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So that younger group is not going to do it. People our age, for a lot of the part, don't know how to do it. And, it's just complicated. And to me, it just seems like there's got to be a point where you've heard of the point of negative production. You're going to get, you got too many people in the assembly line, that slows down production, so speeds it up. And I think we're getting to that point with all the streaming stuff. It's going to get to the point to where you're either going to have to buy, 7 or 8 different streaming packages to get what you want, or none at all. And a lot of people will go none at all. I think
that's right.
One of the reasons YouTube and ESPN got to their agreement was I read a little article on this, and it was hurting both of them, because people like me who had YouTube TV, as soon as they got rid of that, ESPN and ABC, I canceled mine. And then other people, I didn't go immediately from YouTube to get ESPN anywhere. So ESPN didn't get any bump from it, because people were switching. People just canceled, which is what I did. And both of them were losing a little bit. So that's why the settlement came rather abruptly. They both saw it as negative. And, if it gets to that point to where people are not subscribing and people are not watching, then hopefully it'll change. It's tough on people, that really like to watch. And that's the sad part. It hurts the fans more than anybody,
Yep, that's right. Well, I purchased ESPN Plus, and I could not watch it. And I actually I Googled, and it said, even though that I paid separately for ESPN Plus, I would not be able to see it because my television carrier was YouTube TV.
Yep,
And
exactly.
exactly. I agree with WVU Fan 13, and I think delightfully so, that the game coverage on these additional networks tend to be generally good. But I'll tell you what, we talked about this earlier. I have absolutely no idea, other than a lot of alcohol, why the host of a pregame show of West Virginia and Arizona State would come to the studio dressed in Arizona State colors. It was just insane. I think the game coverage is great. From my perspective, both NBC and TNT True TV on both their pregame coverage and their postgame coverage needs to get, let me put it this way, adult status. Right now, it's comical, and you can't. They were just all over Arizona State. It's like, who are they playing today?
Yeah.
Pissed me off, actually.
Yeah. They definitely got some work to do. And you know what? I'm no expert in any of this, but what I would tell them is do your own thing. Don't try to emulate or copy other people. Do your own thing. And like I said, I agree with him. I thought the coverage is good. The pre-kick and the game coverage good. But I'm like you. There's some definitely some kinks they need to get worked out for sure. Like having us call a game, you know. So, but yeah, not bad. But anyway, I'm anxious to see where it does all end up. I just hope for the fans' sake that they get it, you know, rectified to where you can watch and it not cost you a fortune, you know. And you know, these things aren't cheap. I mean, they sound cheap, but when you end up with 3 or 4 of them, it's not cheap anymore, you know. And the way it's looking, you're going to have several different ones in order to get what you want. You know, you're going to pay for several different things. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a mess right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I agree with WVU Fan 13, and they failed doing that because I'll tell you what, Barkley and Shaq. Well, think about this. Okay, if someone says Frank Fear, they say Frank Fear, but you can say Barkley and Shaq with one name and know exactly who you're talking about. These guys are outsized personalities that have they draw people just because of who they are. So you're absolutely correct. Yeah, it just goes back to what Greg said. Just be yourself.
Just be yourself.
And don't wear the colors of one team. Just
don't. Try to be non-biased, and that's not that hard to do when you're calling a game. Just you call it like you see it, and they got some work to do, but it is good coverage. I was surprised, but they've both been doing it for a while. I mean, you just don't really. I mean, they do the NBA stuff, and NCAA True TV has all the NCAA.
Oh, they're great.
All that, so they do. They've experienced it, so they know what they're doing. But yeah, like you said, they got a few kinks to work out for sure.
Yeah. Dave, you've been listening to us go back and forth. Any final comments, and then Greg will take us home.
I mean, just like we said today. I mean, it was definitely it was exciting game to watch here in the second half. Just missed opportunities. But like I said, we're out there. I'm not gonna say a mash unit, but like we're out there growing with our second, third stringers. We're figuring out who we want to retain, figuring out what we need in the high school class, and what we're going to get, what we're going to look for in the portal, and just ready for these next couple of months because we're gonna find out who we're going to get on this team in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Well stated.
Yep. And that I agree 100%. It's going to be fun to watch, and I feel encouraged. I think all Mountaineer fans watching again. You watched a month and a half ago, and now you watch now. You got something to feel good about because we have seen improvement. So can't complain about that. Frank, before we get off here, you want to mention our guest for Wednesday night before we close it up?
Yep. Let me put this up. It's coming up right now. It's a name that I think it's fair to say that most fans would not affiliate or associate with WVU football. First of all, he played a long time ago, played under Bobby Bowden in the really the early to mid 70s, but he has a national name associated with his profession. We'll talk about that. And what we found is that guys like Wib Newton, who lives in Amarillo, Texas right now, have very interesting stories to tell, as we learned last week, certainly. And so we look forward to having Wib Newton, who played linebacker in the mid-'70s, who will be joining us, as always, on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. And, of course, we will not be here next week because there's a bye.
Yep. No pre or post because we don't have a game. So, but we do look forward to coming to you Wednesday with Wib Newton. And like Frank said, I've got one more comment here. Spread for the Texas Tech WVU game. I'm going to guess probably 2 touchdowns.
It's double digits.
Yeah, has to be. We were 10. Was it 10.5 or 11.5? I can't remember what we went off at. But Arizona State didn't cover. So if you're 10.5, 11.5, even though you're on the road, now you're playing a top 10 team, maybe a top 5 team. I think you're right.
Yep, go be double digits for sure. So even though we're playing at home. Anyway, no post game next week. We'll be back for the Texas Tech game. I don't know if a time has been established for that yet or not.
So it'll probably be announced Monday. Probably it's that part of the season, 6-day windows, 6-day windows. Yeah. But it's about Monday at noon that will come out. Mm-hmm. And they may have game times after that. It's kind of different because that's the weekend where there's a bunch of games on Friday and there's a good bit of games on Saturday. You basically split up what you do. So
well, we'll have it on Twitter. Frank will put it out on Twitter and Facebook when the time comes out, so you'll know when the pre and post game shows are going to be. But we do know for certain but we will be here Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now with Wib Newton. That'll be on the New River Network and the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to the post-game show today. We enjoyed bringing it to you. Difficult day for us fans, but again, a lot of positives and good things to look forward to in the future. So we appreciate everyone for tuning in here on the Mountaineer post-game show on the Voice of College Football. We look forward to seeing you Wednesday night, Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. Frank and I will be there with Mickey, and we look forward to bringing you that with Wib Newton. That'll be an interesting story. As Frank said, these guys have great stories to tell, and it's always fun when we get these folks on. We're always thinking, now, who is this guy? But when we get them on, it's always amazing. We had that this past week. I'm sure this will be no different on Wednesday. So hopefully you'll tune in, let your friends and family know that we're on, and maybe they can tune in as well. We appreciate everybody that watches. We appreciate you watching tonight. We look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday night. So have a great evening, Dave. Appreciate you coming in and helping save Frank and I with all your knowledge. We appreciate that. Frank, great job as always. We will see you guys Wednesday night. Take care, everybody.